Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League match day 8, last games in this group phase in the Champions League part 1. There are so many games at the same time, Wednesday 9 p.m. Central European time, that we've split the video, so you have another half with the remaining videos for this one. We have Tom Rennie, we have Ronan Murphy to give you the best tips. There is a lot of on stake in every single game, so stay with us. Tell me your tips. Who's gonna qualify for the top 8 for the playoffs? We will see in a minute. So don't forget, of course, also to press the like, to subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And the first one is a really tricky one. Brugge, Olympique Marseille, both teams want to play in the playoffs. It would be a huge success for both, especially for Brugge. They have 7 points. The Belgian team, important win against 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐻, as we expected. They also won at the weekend, and at home is where they are stronger. They beat Monaco. They drew with Barcelona, but also be careful because 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐻 need at least a draw. I think with a draw should be enough to qualify for the playoffs after losing to Liverpool, but we show a really good version against the leaders of Ligue 1, Lens, at the weekend. Tom, who are you backing here? This is a tricky one. Look at the odds. Very, very difficult to go for 1x2.
It is tricky, but I've had a lot of faith in Marseille throughout this entire tournament. And I've got to say, I was disappointed in them against Liverpool and the way they played in that game. I feel like there was a lack of thrust about them. They seemed fearful against Liverpool, which I wasn't quite expecting. And I think that when you do play for Roberto De Zerbi's pack of utter bastards, it's important to be able to come back from a disappointment like that, which they did in the weekend, where they were cruising against Lens 3-0. I think it was 3-1 in the end. But it was notable they made some changes. It was notable they rested players. It was notable that Ethan Nwaneri starred and Mason Greenwood stayed on the bench. I expect Greenwood to come back in from the start for this one, unless there's some sort of injury that I'm not aware of. And I think that it's a game where Marseille have looked very, very good when their backs have been against the wall this season. When there's a moment of confidence about them, they tend to fumble. But when you don't quite expect it, they go and beat PSG. They pull off a tremendous victory and get back on the horse again. And I think it is worth noting as well that in terms of the way the Champions League has played out this season, Club Brugge at home have struggled. And this is why they find themselves in the position they do. Just one win from their 3 home games to this point. I feel like if I was looking at one of these two teams who would have a real shot of success in the next phase of this competition, it would be Marseille. And I think they are more than capable, as they've proven this season, of pulling off a big win against the odds. And the odds are fantastic here for a Marseille win at 2.5. These are two teams that don't defend particularly well in the Champions League. Their defensive records are not great. And so I'm looking at both teams to score. Take Marseille and BTTS at 3.75. And I don't usually say correct score, but I feel this one in my water. Club Brugge 1, Marseille 2 is 9.
They played really open against Liverpool. Perhaps also seen, especially Brugge, they need the win with Marseille. I guess the draw would be enough, but it would be a great failure if Olympique Marseille are not in the playoffs, Ronan.
Yeah, it will be, and especially with the way the kind of Champions League phase is kind of played out this season. Last season, you needed 11 points to get into the playoffs. This season, it looks like 9 or 10 could actually be enough by the time that these 8 games are up. So maybe it's an easier tournament in the kind of these middle table places compared to last season. I know PSG won't be in the mid-table sections, but that's probably why the bigger teams maybe have got better results. The favourites have won in many matches. So I think it should be quite an open game. That's what we would expect from the last match day, with kind of everything on the line. And, you know, I love the Opta supercomputer, and it's predicting Marseille have a 94.6% chance of making the playoffs. But Brugge only 41.7%. So they obviously need to get something here. They need to get some goals. Their last 3 games in all competitions, there's been plenty of goals in them. 2-3, a 4-1, and a 4-3. Marseille's last 4 games, even wilder, a 9-0, 5-2, 0-3, that Liverpool match we talked about, or Tom talked about, and a 3-1. So, yeah, both teams to score, yes, looks a good option. That Tom was saying by itself, that's 151. because it's happened 54% of the time for Brugge this season. It should happen here again because we should see plenty of goals on the last match day, as teams have so much on the line. They have to kind of go for broke. A draw mightn't be enough for many teams. So over 2.5 goals, I'm also liking the look of. So far, 63% for Brugge this season, 71% for Marseille. So a lot of matches have had over 2.5 goals. So total goals over 3 to go for that one, because if it's exactly 3, you get your money back, but the odds are better then because you're betting on exactly 3. 184 is the odds on that.
Okay, goals and goals. Pathfinder, Brugge to score 2 goals, over 2.5 goals for 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐴, also for Alex. Draw is also possible. The draw would be really bad for sure for Brugge, and who knows, for Marseille should be enough, but it's not granted. If they draw, they are going to be in the next round. Next game is Eintracht Frankfurt, Tottenham. Frankfurt are out of the competition with only 4 points. Really, really bad Champions League. Also bad season overall. They are falling apart in the Bundesliga as well. Lost again at the weekend. And Tottenham, they need to win to secure a top 8 spot. They are doing a really good Champions League campaign, helped also by the schedule, because they had easy games, but you have to beat also Dortmund at home, for instance, as they did last week, whereas in England, Ronan, they are unable to win any game, not even Burnley.
Yeah, it seems playing German teams seems to be the solution for Tottenham at the moment, and it was last week. Tom was very confident that Tottenham wouldn't do anything, but I was like, remember, Dortmund are bad at defending, and we need to remember the exact same point for this match. Frankfurt bad at defending at the moment, and not that great at scoring either, as they had been at the start of the season. They've sacked their head coach, so they're kind of in a bit of a transition period at the moment. They are out of the Champions League, so this match has absolutely no bearing on their season. It is a pointless match for Frankfurt. I know the fans mightn't agree, because they always are very kind of intense at the stadium. They're very passionate supporters, but yeah, Frankfurt has 0% chance of making the playoffs or the top 8 coming first. Any of that, 0% chance for Frankfurt. But Spurs still have a very good chance of getting into the top 8, over 50%. So there is a good chance that if Spurs win here, they could be kind of avoiding the playoff round. So that is their aim at the moment. And if you look at these two teams when they played last season in the Europa League quarterfinals, it was 1-1 in London, and then Tottenham came away with a 1-0 win in Frankfurt. So it could happen again. The smart bet, the robots here are going for 1x, which I don't really understand. They seem to be quite confident in Frankfurt. 195, maybe because they've watched Tottenham as closely as Tom has and have seen all their failings. But I have seen Frankfurt's plenty and many failings this season. They're a team capable of scoring. They're a team capable of conceding. And they're a team capable of losing this match that is irrelevant to them, because I don't necessarily think they'll play all their best players in it. So Tottenham win is 198.
Indeed, the only problem here is that it's Tottenham, Tom. It's just Tottenham. They are so likely to screw it when everyone is backing them.
Yes, as they've proven on our Premier League show many times this season, including the weekend just gone. But look, if you take away the league season, and specifically take away the home form in the league this season, it's been a pretty good campaign for Tottenham, right? Away in the Champions League, they've been great. Their entire Champions League form has been great. They're probably going to finish in the top 8 with this result and miss the playoff round. And look, they're not going to get relegated in the Premier League. They'll be annoyed to be in that conversation, but they're as close to, I think, 5th as they are to 18th. So, look, I think reports of Spurs' demise greatly exaggerated. They're short for centre forward. They're short of someone who can play a through ball. Xavi Simons has not quite done it in terms of creativity, plugging the Maddison and Kulusevski gap. But I just don't think it's as bad as all that. I think the protests at Tottenham are a bit weird, frankly. And I don't know, there's a few clubs around that might be saying careful what you wish for with getting rid of Thomas Frank and maybe bringing Big Ange back, which I read this week, which I really want to happen. But look, they're going to win this game for the reasons that Ronan's laid out. Eintracht Frankfurt are not going to get through in the Champions League this season. They're likely to rest players. And even if they didn't rest players, they have the worst defence, I think, in the Champions League group stage with 19 conceded. So it's nothing but a prideful match for Frankfurt, an important match for Tottenham. And you know what? Away from home, I mean, even against Burnley this weekend in the Premier League, right? They didn't win the game. It didn't get beat. they are really tough to beat away from home, and they do have goals in them. And those goals tend to come from their two centre-halves going forward and smashing in from across. It's ugly, and it's not what Spurs fans want, but they will win lots of football matches. And I would back them to win this one. 1.98 is really nice for a Tottenham victory. Of course, Tottenham have a leaky defence themselves, and Frankfurt do score plenty of goals. So Tottenham win both teams to score is 3.5, which I like. Consider this being a 1-3, a 1-4, a 2-4. I think it'd be a lot of fun, which is weird for a Tottenham game, I know, but generally away from home they have been. And then look at scorers. The only scorers you go for Tottenham are the two centre-halves, who are just the everymen of Spurs. Romero anytime is 7. Van der Ven anytime at 8. Both scored against Burnley at the weekend just gone. Why not again here?
Good memories for Tottenham in this stadium. Last season, they got their ticket to the Europa League final there. They won 1-0 with Solanke scoring from the penalty spot. Even in the head-to-head, Tottenham also beat them in the Champions League. So it's 2 draws, 2 wins for Tottenham against Frankfurt. With a draw, very likely Tottenham could be out of the top 8. So they really need to win here. Next game is Liverpool Qarabag. Liverpool also need to win to secure the top 8 finish, and Qarabag is still with options. And seeing what is happening with this Liverpool, who knows if Qarabag can grab a point and qualify for the playoffs. It would be a really big surprise. Even with a defeat, they have 10 points. They could make it, although it's unlikely with a -2 goal average. But I guess, Tom, here we should talk about Liverpool. Really pitiful form in the Premier League with Van Dijk on holidays, or where is he? We don't know, because it was just shameful what he did in the 2 goals at the weekend. So this team is not getting better. Not even with Salah. You had faith in Salah.
I did, and I still think at some point this season he'll go on a little run before we're going to take that sweet, sweet Saudi money. Look, I think the issue with Virgil van Dijk is that Father Time is unbeaten, and he's got too old, and he's got too slow, and he's not got people around him protecting him, and 𝐬𝐭𝐼 is never fit, and 𝐿𝐼𝐴 is never fit, and there's talk what the Endo will be at centre-half for this game, or they'll do a 3 at the back potentially, depending on who's available. I'd not seen that with Slot before. But the issue with Liverpool is that in the summer they didn't close the deal on 𝐿𝐴𝐴. This is the long tail of that they chased forwards and strikers and wingers and sexy players, and what they needed was a centre-half to work with Van Dijk. And for whatever reason, they let the 𝐴𝐴 transfer run until they couldn't land it. Now he's a Man City player. And that's a huge blow. Huge blow for Liverpool, because centre-half is the biggest issue. The rest of the team is working fine enough. 2 goals away at Bournemouth at the weekend is fine. 3 goals, obviously, at Marseille in the last Champions League game is fine. There are issues with Salah. There's issues with this sort of Ralph Rangnick 4-2-2-2 they're doing. I'm not the biggest fan of the formation, the style of it, but it's not a problem. The issue is they cannot defend. And they've got to ask Van Dijk to go again 4 days later, go again 3 days later, go again 4 days later, cover for the deficiencies of whoever's with him, who then can't cover for him. And that's the ongoing problem. But look, I don't think we need to worry too much about Qarabag here. I know it's been a perfectly acceptable Champions League run. The win over Eintracht Frankfurt makes this an interesting final game for them. But I just feel like Liverpool, despite that loss at the weekend, have become very tough to beat, because they've been dropping deeper. They've been playing a little bit risk-averse football to try and get through games, to nick goals. Florian Wirtz, despite a ropey performance against Bournemouth at the weekend, has gradually got better and better and better in this team. I thought he was excellent in the game against Burnley, where they probably should have won on that first half performance alone. So only a mad person, I think, would bet on Qarabag here. The odds are 25 for a reason. I know it occasionally comes in, but I think it's unlikely to come in here. 5 wins from 7 in the Champions League for Liverpool is great. So go for the Liverpool win. Pointless at 1.17. Add a little handicap to that. I do think there are goals in this team. 3 against Marseille, 2 against Bournemouth. I'd look at least 2 here. -2 handicap for a 3 brings you at the first. Nice one at 3.25. And you can also do one of my favourites. A nice little group. 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 2.88. Add that to a scorer, probably 𝐿𝐴𝐴. That gets you above double your money.
Well, some people here think that Qarabag can sneak a goal, Ronan.
Yes, that is just what I'm going to introduce. Yeah, some of the commenters I see. I say, 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗲𝗀 is going for both teams to score and Liverpool to win, which seems like a good bet for me. There's also mentioned that the Qarabag over half a goal in the comments. Yeah, Pathfinder is saying that because the Liverpool defence is leaky, and like Tom listed all the reasons that Van Dijk plays every game and other players play beside him. I'm not necessarily sure they're good players. There's players there, and Van Dijk is not necessarily the world-class player he once was, because like Tom said, Father Time is undefeated, unless if you go to Serie A. So maybe that could be the next step on the Van Dijk journey, and maybe he will continue to look world-class there. But he is not looking world-class at the moment. I enjoyed the clip that was doing the rounds on social media of him attempting to defend for one of the Bournemouth goals, and Jamie Carragher's commentary played over where he says he's too good for football, that he should be at a totally different level. I enjoyed that one. That was very entertaining for me as a non-Liverpool fan. But yeah, Edu, when you said about Qarabag, maybe this is the end of the road for him. Maybe not, because if you look at the simulations that the supercomputer does, how it works is it runs 10,000 simulations, and then it works out based on that who goes through and who doesn't go through. They have a 99.8% chance of making the playoffs. So only 20 times in the 10,000 times did they not make the playoffs. And that's probably because all the other results have to go terribly wrong for them, as well as this one. So this one, maybe it doesn't actually matter for Qarabag, but it would be nice to see them score. They have scored against everybody except Napoli in the tournament so far. They've scored against Chelsea, they've scored against Ajax, they've scored against Benfica, like Tom said, they beat Frankfurt. So they've got good results, they've got plenty of goals. Liverpool's defence is terrible, so I like the look of Qarabag just to score. Qarabag over 0.5 goals is 220.
Well, they have 6 teams below them in the table right now, already qualifying for the playoffs. Indeed, they could be the Cinderella, actually, of those playoffs. Liverpool, Qarabag, both teams to score over 2.5 goals. Szoboszlai to score, another beautiful goal from a free kick. Mount Spaghetti is telling us our Liverpool fan. 𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀 Liverpool 2-1, 3-1, or 4-1. Well, if Qarabag have a lot of options to qualify, even more Galatasaray playing against Man City, because they also have 10 points and they have a better goal average. 9 goals scored, 9 goals conceded, thanks to the point they got against Atlético de Madrid. But now it's going to be very difficult for them, I guess, to get a point in Manchester, since Man City need to win, but also to score a lot of goals because they have to overscore Sporting, Barcelona, or Chelsea to reach the top 8. And I'm not sure, Ronan, if we should go for an Asian handicap for Man City. They need it, but even against Wolves, they didn't score plenty. We are seeing Haaland not scoring lately, although Marmoush step up at the weekend, and we are seeing this Man City with a lot of problems, as we saw them against Bodo Glimt or Manchester United.
Yeah, this is one that you think Pep Guardiola would want to score as many goals as possible, but I suppose that's the approach to every game, and it hasn't really been working for him so far. But you did rest Haaland at the weekend; he only came off the bench, so maybe he will be hungry. He will have a huge appetite to score some goals here and put some pressure on Kylian Mbappe in the race for top scorer in Champions League this season. He's now 5 behind Mbappe, because Mbappe keeps steamrolling against the lesser kind of sides in the Champions League, and there's plenty of them with the expanded Champions League format. Galatasaray are definitely not one of those. They are a team that can cause problems against many teams, usually at home, but on the road they're pretty good. They have a great chance of making the playoffs themselves. Like I said, they have a better chance than Qarabag. They have a 99.9%. So yeah, they're going to make the playoffs regardless of what happens here too. Haaland, he has 7 goals in 6 games in the Champions League so far. He didn't score against Bodo Glimt last time out. He didn't start against Leverkusen, so he didn't score against that one, but he scored in every other game in the Champions League. So Erling Haaland as an anytime goal scorer is usually a good bet for Man City when Man City are playing. Maybe not quite at the moment, but generally over the last few years since he's been at Man City, when he's played, he's scored goals. So him as an anytime goal scorer is 160. And like you said, they need lots of goals here. So Erling Haaland, to score 2 or more goals is nearly double that at 310.
Well, Tom, once upon a time, I'm sure we would handicap this Man City. Are you brave enough to do it?
Maybe. You might have talked me into it. I also feel like the loss of Mark Gay makes it very... because he can't play in the Champions League right to the knockout stage. So I just think it'll be 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐼 and Max Alain at centre half. Is he in the Champions League squad? I don't know who it'll be alongside him. That's interesting. Look, the Man City run is weird, I think, right? The run they have been on is very, very odd. I thought the performance against Wolves at the weekend wasn't great, and Wolves could have maybe got something from that game on their second half performance. In fact, it was 𝗪𝐿 who I thought was the best player on the field in terms of keeping Wolves out. The Bodo Glimt one was a shocker. The Man United performance was maybe the worst I've seen from a Man City side since Guardiola has come in. So there are things to be ironed out here. Firstly, 𝗪𝐿 needs to be playing regularly in the knockout stage of the Champions League and then regularly in the Premier League. Alongside him, they've got to find someone who can just stay fit and do their job. Maybe it is 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐼, maybe it's someone else. He's probably better than Max Alain, who should go back on loan to Watford. And then hopefully Matheus Nunes as well. I know he's been struggling with illness recently. So he comes back, O'Reilly comes back. I think Man City look a more solid piece. For this game, I think it's going to be tricky for them to keep a clean sheet depending on who goes alongside 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐼. And then you've got to work out what that midfield is. Like, the best thing about City this season has been Reinders and 𝗀𝐿𝐵𝐿. And yet against Man United, they don't play. They bring in Antoine Semenyo. They play him on the wrong side and play Doku on the left and him on the right when Semenyo wants to play on the left. So why did you bring him in? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I get the Erling Haaland being dropped against Wolves because they were always going to find a way to beat Wolves, but they've got to find a way to get Erling Haaland firing. And if he actually needs a break, don't play him in this one either. Another week off and another week off. Like, Erling Haaland's been awful for 2 months. Really, really struggling. And Guardiola tells me it's playing too much football. I'm happy to agree with him. Let's have a nice holiday for Erling Haaland. We don't see him again until the FA Cup fourth round's over in 2 weeks from now. With that being the case, who goes up front? What's the makeup of the front line? Loads of questions going into this game against the Galatasaray side who have pulled off some shock results in the Champions League, right? They're a team that are more than capable of picking up a victory. And I think they've won half their games, or 3 victories, 3 losses and a draw in their run. Victor Osimhen remains an incredibly threatening striker. There are people like Lamina and Lucas Torreira, who will boot you off the field if necessary. And if there's no 𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐼 and there's no Rodri, I don't know about the midfield. I don't know. I came into this quite confident of Man City winning, but now I've heard Ronan and I'm talking about it out loud. I'm less confident. So I might abandon all my bets here and just do something rogue. I mean, look, obviously Man City at 1.28 is worth doing if you're putting it into an accumulator, and it's one of the 4 or 5 results you do. But at 13, I would not be stunned to see Gala win this game. I would not be stunned because the defense has been so poor. Haaland's not firing, and Rodri and Nico Gonzalez are either not fit or not been in good form in terms of Rodri. So I might just say take the Gala at 13, like put City into an ACCA, but that is well worth a punt. If you are going for City, I'm changing my mind live, and I'd say goals at both ends and City shade it. I think at least above 2 goals in this game, maybe above 3, and cancel everything I said before the recording.
Galatasaray double chance. We have a guy that by the name could be Turkish, by the way. So maybe he's backing his team. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. Osimhen to show up. Both teams to score for many people. Also for William. Of course, if they play as they did against Manchester or Bodo Glimt, it's very easy to catch them in the counter, and Galatasaray have an option, although they will be in the playoffs. And one of the best games on Wednesday is Napoli-Chelsea, Antonio Conte's derby. And here we have Chelsea with 13 points in the top 8. But be careful, because even winning, they could be out depending on the results. They have +6 right now. And we have Napoli right now out of the playoffs with 8 points, level on points with some other teams, but with a really bad goal average since they conceded 6 against PSV, and it's a really delicate moment for Napoli. Lost 3-0 against Juventus, could have been even worse. They couldn't beat Copenhagen away. They lost to Benfica. So, Tom, I think here we should look at Chelsea indeed, although also there is this kind of atmosphere at the Maradona in the big nights. We saw it also this season against Juventus, against Inter in the Serie A. So actually, I'm not sure which team to back in this one.
Well, some would say it screams draw, this game, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it. I mean, this would do Napoli a bit of a favour in many ways to get knocked out of the Champions League, because Antonio Conte, as we know, is not someone that can do multiple competitions. He can do one and focus fully on it, and that's why they did so well in the league last season. And this season, I think they've struggled, along with the injuries they've got Sambo and 𝗀𝐻𝐴 and Kevin De Bruyne and one or two others, David Neres and Billy Gilmore, and there's a few others that are missing. Lukaku's been missing all season, of course. So you've got all sorts of problems in terms of squad depth for Napoli. There's not a great deal of rotation. They've got a manager who doesn't take his foot off the gas pedal for a second. And that leads to, I think, a run like this, where everyone looks knackered, everyone looks exhausted, everyone's tired of having Antonio Conte shout at them all the time, including the referees and fourth officials who he's trying to fight on the sideline in games. And Antonio Conte teams always blow up. So a good thing for them here, which will feel like a bad thing on the day, would be to lose to Chelsea, get knocked out, agree Conte is going, see the season through, and challenge the Milan clubs for the Serie A title. That's, you know, a kind of silver lining to a defeat they surely wouldn't want, but they're conceding goals. If it wasn't for Milenkovic-Savic in goal, they'd have lost more games recently. There was a win against Sassuolo where he was fantastic. The game against Parma, he played really, really well, I believe. So I think it's all going to be about the goalkeeper keeping out this kind of free-flowing Chelsea attack, because they are very, very good on the break. They're still a team that are not amazing, I've got to say, Chelsea. I think reports of their return to brilliance under David Brent / Liam Rossigna greatly exaggerated. He's just man-aging them. You know, it's classic man-agement. But I think that defensively they still look quite weak. Are we going to get 2 games in a week out of Fofana? Probably not. I think Enzo Fernandez has been fantastic this season, but Caicedo's had some wobbles, and Reece James in midfield can't play 2 games in a week as well. But there's no one else that can really play those positions. And I still don't know what the best wingers are. Is it Neto? Is it Gittins? Is it Garnacho? I don't know. Whoever we saw at the weekend, I'm not expecting to see it today. The only thing I'm expecting is Liam Delap to be the central striker, because Rossigna knows him, and he seems to be preferring him over João Pedro at the moment, with João Pedro coming off the bench to have a kind of half an hour impact, which he is doing. Maybe that's the best balance for this pair. I'm not sure. But look, I think this is a game of 2 teams with lots of deficiencies. And Cole Palmer's out again for Chelsea. He's had a nothing season, really, Palmer. We're now into nearly February, and he's contributed almost nothing to Chelsea, despite being probably their best player. So screams draw for me, 3.7. I'm not seeing enough in either team to be able to go on to win it. I think Chelsea, if they're able to take the lead, will sit on it, and that will require a 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝐴 masterclass to get Napoli back into it. 1-1 at 6.5, I quite like. If you do pick a winner, go for Chelsea. Both teams to score. I can see late goals for Chelsea as Napoli desperately try and get something from this game. 1-2, 1-3, something like that, with goals coming in the last 10. And in terms of individuals, always look at 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝐴 anytime, 3.75.
Okay, Ronan, how do you see it? The draw actually is bad for both sides. I think it's very likely that if they draw, they don't get their goals. They don't meet their goals.
Yeah, it kind of looks like if it was a draw for Chelsea, they drop into the playoffs out of the top 8, because they're, like you said, they're just on the kind of cliff edge of the top 8 at the moment. They are 8. So if results go against them, or if they only drew here, that probably wouldn't be enough, and they will be out of the top 8. Napoli, they are the second closest team to be 50-50 whether they'll qualify for the next round or the playoffs or not. Athletic Club de Bilbao is 50.7 to 49.3, and Napoli is 50.9 to 49.1%. So there's a 50-50 chance whether they make it into the last 24 or not. Is it the last 24? This competition is stupid. The last 24. What are we doing? And this 40-18 World Cup that we have coming up in the summer, where you can come third, you can draw all your games and make it. Yeah, football. There's just too much football, but it does make it more entertaining for us to debate on it and predict it, etc. So in Napoli, Tom is underestimating the Club World Champions. Speaking of pointless extra tournaments, I am also underestimating the Club World Champions, because Napoli are fantastic at home this season. Antonio Conte, he may be a slave driver at Napoli, but it seems to be working. They have not lost at all in 16 home games this season. They're on a 9-game unbeaten run, home and away. Smart bet, 5 stars, is actually thinking that Napoli could win the first half here at 3.30. Maybe it could be an option, and maybe that could tie into one of Tom's bets that both teams to score, Chelsea to come back and win 3-1 to win. Yeah, maybe. But Chelsea are scoring nearly twice as many goals in the first half as the second half of Champions League, 1.3 in the first half, 0.7 on average in the second half. So they seem to be a more first half team. So I'm more confident in that, in myself, than the robots this time. So I'm going to go for Napoli Asian handicap 0. It screams draw, but it also screams maybe Napoli could win as well because it's such a crucial game for them.
Yeah, difficult, I think, the 1x2 in this game. Hello, someone from Germany, from Romania. 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝐿 is going for cards in this game. Chelsea must win game. Also, Napoli. Indeed, Chelsea win or draw, no bet for Man Spaghetti. Let's see if Napoli are able to stay in the Champions League. They are out of the race for the Serie A, so I think it would be positive for them, actually, to stay in the Champions League. They are even risking the top 4 in the Serie A. Important game for Antonio Conte, probably his last season. Let's see, even if he gets to June. And now the game of the games, Pafos, Slavia Prague. Everyone is looking forward to watching this game. Cyprus is getting filled of people traveling to the island to see two teams that are out of the Champions League. Slavia Prague for sure. Pafos, I'm sure, Ronan, you have the percentage of probability to go to the playoffs. Still, Pafos have done, I think, a very decent Champions League with 6 points. Even they didn't get thrashed against Chelsea, against Juventus, keeping themselves competitive. And now they have a Spanish manager. Well, to be more precise, Andorra, Albert Celades.
Oh, very good. Andorra FC are on the up and up, so things are looking good for football in Andorra at the moment. One of the commenters said that Tom is his favourite, or their favourite, maybe it's one of Tom's relations, and they would love Tom to do both parts of the show. So, Tom, you can do Pafos versus Slavia, both parts if you like, because this feels like one of those games where, nobody will be tuning into this one. And like you asked, Edu, Pafos have an 18.7% chance of making the playoffs, so they're not going to. It's not going to happen. So the only thing you can kind of look for in this match maybe is goals, because if you look at the last match day of the previous version of this expanded tournament last season, 13 of the 18 games of match day 8 last season had over 2.5 total goals, and only 6 teams kept clean sheets. So I'm looking at over 2.5 goals at 198 for this one, and I'm going to go for both teams to score yes as well at 177. That's all the insight I'm going to give you, because Tom is their favourite, so Tom can do everything here.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom, tell us about Pafos.
Well, Ronan's my favourite, and so I very much enjoyed his analysis. I mean, in terms of Pafos, all I know is that Watford legend 𝐿𝐴 plays for them. And I always liked 𝐿𝐴, who is I must be 34, 35 now. And I've enjoyed seeing him again. I like seeing players who I think have retired just turning up somewhere. It makes me happy. So that's my analysis on Pafos. In terms of Slavia Prague, I do like them, actually, mainly because they're a team that West Ham tend to buy players from over the years. And there have been some successes in 𝐿𝐴𝐴 and Soufal, and to a lesser extent, Diouf. So I always like to look up to see who we're going to get next. At the moment, it's not a particularly strong crowd, but look, they gave Barca a bloody nose, right? And that was a pretty impressive performance from them. I think, as Ronan has said, who again is my favourite, he knows a lot about Pafos. Both teams have scored goals in the Champions League this season. Both have had respectable, if unspectacular, Champions League runs this season. I don't know what's happening in Cypriot football, whether they get Pafos back again. Fingers crossed we do. But I think it's going to be a classic end of the run, slobber knocker style matchup. Both teams score. So both teams to score and no draw comes in at 2.63. If you pick a winner, Slavia Prague, double your money. If you're going to bet on this game, that's what you look at here. One is from a stronger league with stronger European pedigree. The other is having a brief flit in the Champions League. So I'd imagine if you're going to pick a winner, go for Prague. There's some deep analysis there. 𝐿𝐴𝐴.
Well, Pafos are not going to repeat. I think in the Champions League, they are third in the Cyprus League, in case you are wondering. Tom, 8 points away from Omonia. and 3 behind AEK Larnaca. Well, next game is PSG Newcastle. This should be a better one. The winner will go into the top 8. The draw, probably both are out. So let's see what happens. Of course, PSG are favorites. Odds are 1.6. They got in trouble after losing against Sporting. They were a bit unlucky in that game, but still they lost. They couldn't beat also Athletic before that. And Tom, I guess we should back PSG despite the results I mentioned, because also Newcastle away, we have doubts about them. Even they lost to Aston Villa at the weekend in the Premier League. Or you give some options to Newcastle?
No, I wouldn't, for the main reason that I was a bit annoyed about our Premier League show last week because Bruno Guimaraes got injured the night before and I hadn't had the chance to watch it yet. So I then watched it after we recorded and was like, oh, Bruno Guimaraes got injured. Why have I gone for a Newcastle win? So I blame myself. I should have woke up earlier. I blame my wife for making me have kids and taking up a lot of my morning. Because without Bruno Guimaraes, Newcastle do not win. They just do not win without him. He is such a pivotal player for them. He's their top scorer in the Premier League, and he picked up an ankle injury. We're talking about mid-February, maybe. Maybe they can inject him into this game. I don't know. But without him, nothing about Newcastle works. He's their best player covering for the back line. He's their top goal scorer. He's their leader. He's their captain. He does everything for this team. And without him, the midfield trio doesn't quite work. As much as I like Tonali and even Lewis Miley, I think it's had a good season in lots of ways. It doesn't work without him. And offensively, front line's been bad this season, and we can talk about PSR until we're blue in the face when it comes to Newcastle. They have wasted money. Anthony Elanga was a waste. They did not need to spend £60 million on someone that had one good season for Nuno last year at Forest and a team designed around him. Huge waste of money. 𝐬𝐿 is a good player, but you saw in the Qarabag Cup semi-final, one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Would you bet on 𝐬𝐿? I wouldn't. Even the goal he scored against PSV, the first one, was a scuffed miss hit that luckily bounced over the goalkeeper. So, again, they're all right, but these are £60 million players, and they just spent too much money on mid-level talent. And I think 𝐬𝐿 kind of goes into that bracket as well. So there's issues there with Newcastle. You mentioned how bad the away form has been as well in both Champions League and Premier League. And so it's a wobbly moment for Newcastle, and I don't expect them to win this match, and I expect them to drop into a playoff round. And that's going to be an issue because, again, they've got a lot of injuries. They're stacking up and they're not able to invest for whatever reason in key positions. And the players they've bought in have not been particularly good. In terms of Paris Saint-Germain, I think we're all somewhat surprised by that kind of late loss against Sporting Club de Portugal. I think Suarez's goal was in the 90th minute, something like that. It was sort of edging its way to a pretty standard draw following the 𝐻𝐿𝐴 leveller. Look, they're playing within themselves, Paris Saint-Germain, as a lot of the big clubs do, because they build up to a sprint finish from March towards May. That's led to a few drop points. That's led to a few rickety results. And it led to, I think, the Sporting game last time out when they were trying to manage their way to the end. But they can't do that here. They can't do that here because of how concertinaed the whole thing is. It's all close, and they'll want to guarantee a last eight place in order to miss that playoff round, then to rest some players, to rotate, and to be ready for March as teams who can actually win this competition will. So I think they'll go all out for this one, and I think that you'll see a front line of 𝗵𝗵𝗿 and Barcola and 𝗵𝐻𝐿𝐴, and you'll see the strongest possible team put in the strongest possible performance. And I think this talk of rivalry between these two is much more of a Newcastle thing than a Paris Saint-Germain thing. So PSG win at 1.56, got to take that. I'm struggling to see Newcastle goals for reasons discussed, so a PSG win to 0 comes in at 3. And I think there'll be a couple of PSG goals in here, because when they score 1, I think Newcastle will understandably get a bit desperate. That opens itself up to more minus 1.5 handicap, 2.38. I might even look at minus 2.5. I think PSG win quite comfortably.
Well, this is the kind of games where we want to see the European champions, Ronan, despite the defeats this season. I think we should take PSG very seriously, because it's true that they had so many injuries, they had so many competitions, that this kind of games is where it counts for Luis Enrique.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where they started to warm up last season. If you looked at it, if you remember the Champions League 12 months ago, and it was kind of like, will PSG be knocked out? Was kind of one of the narratives. And I think will Man City be knocked out was the other one, kind of around at the same time. And then they played Stuttgart away. They won 4-1. It was just that we kind of saw this is the PSG that would go on all the way then to win the Champions League, and that might be what you see here, because like Tom said, they want to avoid those extra couple of games next month, because they would rather just play against 𝐬𝐭𝐸 and the other teams that I would pronounce fancily in French in the French league, and instead of playing the likes of Newcastle, which I'm well able to pronounce. So yeah, so the last time they played a English team, they won 5-3. I know the Club World Cup, they did not become world champions at that, but they are European champions. They have fantastic players. These 60 million players that Newcastle have bought. Tom went on a rant about PSR there for a minute. I think he got the fixture list wrong. It's PSG they're playing this week. But yeah, this Newcastle team, it just is a kind of a middling team. It's not. They don't look like Champions League players they brought in. They spent the money on. They lost probably a Champions League player in 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐧𝐬𝐿, but they didn't replace him with Champions League players. So yeah, this Newcastle team is not as good as it was last season. It's not going to do anything here against PSG. PSG are going to score plenty of goals. I agree with everything Tom says, as always. I always agree with him. He is my favourite. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going a bit safer. If you do want to go a bit safer than all Tom's bets, PSG Asian handicap -1 or -1 is what I predicted at 180.
I'm so surprised to see our smart bet going for first team to score. Newcastle 2.6 double chance. 𝐿2 is the second smart bet tip, 2.5. So really brave. In this case, I would always trust PSG, to be honest. 𝐬𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐬𝐿, PSG to score 1-2 or 3-0. PSG at home, not a cup of tea to beat. Double chance 𝐿2 looks nice for Alex, following our smart bet. PSG to win and over 2.5 goals. I would trust indeed. Well, PSG, the winner again, would go to the top 8. The loser, very likely out. The draw, maybe both are out of the top 8, very likely also if there is a draw. Next one is PSV Bayern Munich. Bayern need a point at least to secure the second spot, and the PSV need to win to be in the playoffs. Perhaps with a draw is enough, but I don't think so. They lost to Atlético de Madrid and Royal Union Saint-Gilloise in this very same stadium. And well, Ronan, we saw Leverkusen fans very happy because Bayern lost to Augsburg, so there is only one team who is able to win the Bundesliga unbeaten, and it's Leverkusen's Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, and they put it up on social media that they're the only invincible team in history. And Augsburg's own account put up a nice meme about Harry Kane being means I won't show up. And Harry Kane didn't show up against Augsburg, and then they obviously got so much abuse from Bayern Munich fans in their replies that they apologized for it. Oh, Harry, you're such a nice guy. Rather than doubling down, you double down when the things happen. You tell Bayern, no, I'm not going to apologize for this thing. Double down. And that's what teams don't do in the Bundesliga, because as the old saying goes, Bayern Munich buy the Bundesliga every season. They're going to win it comfortably again this season. So Champions League is where Vincent Kompany will be judged, and they have to win games like this. They even though it's not really going to matter whether they lose, they're in the top 8 anyway. 100% chance of making the top 8. This match does not matter to them on paper. It matters because they lost to Augsburg. Maybe if we had have seen them beaten Augsburg 5-2 or something, we might have seen them rotated team or some players rested, or Nico Jackson maybe starting up front. But we're not going to see that here, because Bayern Munich, after they lose, they always have a point to prove. They are going to win this one. I'm very confident of them scoring multiple goals in it. The Augsburg game was only the second time all season that they didn't score 2 or more goals in a game. The only other time was against Arsenal in Champions League. They bounced back massively after that one. They're going to do it again. Bayern Munich over 2.5 goals themselves is 2.25. And then we have to look at the top scorer race in Champions League, and the other man that's in it with 𝗵𝐵 and that one I mentioned earlier, that's kind of putting pressure with Haaland on him, is Harry Kane. He's the second highest goal scorer in Champions League this season. He has 7 goals. So him as a 9-time goal scorer when Bayern Munich play, even though he's slightly out of form at the moment, it's still Harry Kane, it's still Bayern Munich. It's against a Dutch team. There is that real rivalry there, unlike Newcastle and PSG. There is a rivalry between Dutch and German teams. So Harry Kane, anytime goal scorer, 190. That's just what I got.
Okay, James, Bayern to win for Parias. Only man spaghetti. I see an upset here. Tom, indeed, for PSV is very important. I'm sure we are going to see a great atmosphere at the Philips Stadium.
Yeah, you'll definitely get that. And the only shame for PSV is they can't make their natural slip down into the Europa League, which is what they would have done in the old context of Champions League. Unfortunately, after this, I think the European run is over. The Newcastle loss was devastating. Devastating in the way it came. Devastating in terms of point tally going into this and sitting just above the line currently with Napoli below and 1 or 2 other clubs below. I think this is good night for PSV in terms of European competition this season, because Bayern, despite the loss at the weekend, which we can all agree was very funny, as Ronan said, they're still excellent. They're an excellent team, and now you've got an excellent team who are going to be annoyed. They're going to be annoyed to have lost their 27-match unbeaten run. They're going to be annoyed to have lost in the way that they did. It's very rare for them to not outscore a team. And I wonder if Harry Kane is still annoyed about missing out on that English-style hat-trick in the last Champions League round as well by hitting the crossbar in the way that he did. So I think this is going to be a bit of a revenge match in many ways for Bayern, and I think they're going to go and win quite convincingly. And PSV, again, if they'd have won against Newcastle, they could have maybe sat on this and super low blocked and tried to hit on the counter, and they've got a couple of players that can maybe do that, but they've got to get a result here. And if Bayern score 1, they always score at least 1. They've got to go on to score a couple to stay in the Champions League. When it starts opening up, there'll be some late goals. There'll be some late drama in this. I expect Bayern to score at least 2, maybe more. So Kane anytime, as ever, 1.67. Throw that in with a bunch of other bets. And then look at your handicaps. Bayern over 2.5 is 2. Bayern over 3.5 was 2.75. I think Bayern will score at least 2, maybe 3 here in a high-scoring match.
Looks like a high-scoring game. King's Devil is telling us. And our smart bet tool is going for 1x. Double chance for PSV, the team that needs the points, that's for sure. And the last game is Royal Union Saint-Gilloise Atalanta. Atalanta 13 points, so this is a must-win for them to be in the top 8. They screwed up against Athletic. They were leading that game and they ended up losing. It was a big surprise, even if they've improved a lot in the last weeks under the new manager. They beat in the Champions League Chelsea, Eintracht or OM for Saint-Gilloise, 6 points. So they are basically out of the Champions League. They still have some slim options. Tom, you see Atalanta winning here?
Yeah, I think there's lots of evidence that Palladino was kicking them into shape after that ridiculous decision to bring in 𝐬𝐿. I don't know what that was about. It made no sense. And why on earth any of that happened, I don't know. It just seems like someone that we all need to wipe from our memories from his last 3 appointments. And I hope he's enjoying the payoffs and whatever he's doing, but please don't come back. But it also helps as well that, West Ham had 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 a couple of years ago in the Conference League run, and there was a couple of weeks, like in September, where I thought, oh, blimey, we've done it. We've got the striker. He can do everything. He's got a beautiful, sweet strike of a ball, and he looks slim, and he can move around for a big guy. And then he got injured, and he left, and he got injured again, and we've barely seen him. So it's great to see him scoring again. A top-quality striker, 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿, if he could start being fit and actually develop. And he still has such a sweet strike, as we saw with the spot kick against Parma at the weekend in the previous Champions League round. And we're getting performances again from Di Ketelaere and Raspadori and all these names that we know are good players, but were being coached poorly by an idiot. And now they're not. And that's helping them. And look, with all the best throw in the world, it's great to see USD have landed a couple of punches in the Champions League this season, but essentially a feeder club for the owners' other projects, and whoever's good there is going to get moved on in the summer for some sort of cash flow / fund concern. So I don't care about them, and I'm happy they're getting to get knocked out. Atalanta win at 2.27. Take it. Look at 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. He's in good form, and I'd fancy if he can stay fit, him to score as well. take the Atalanta win.
So you like 𝐿𝐵𝐴, Tom, indeed, as much as Paco Gémez, or same?
Paco Gémez is a god to me, and I'm looking forward to the next West Ham win when he tries to eat somebody, which I assume is what he does.
Ronan, do you see Atalanta getting the points from Belgium?
I'm here to listen to Tom talk about West Ham for an hour, to be honest.
That's Thursday's show. Join us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I look forward to that one. Yeah, I see Atalanta getting all the points here because only on SG they are more or less out, 8.6% chance of making the playoffs. So that's 91% chance of getting knocked out. So unless they win here, they are out. They're probably not going to win here because they haven't scored in the last 2 matches. They had both teams to score no in all of their 4 last matches. So if someone's not scoring, usually it's not them. Atalanta, they've scored in each of their last 6 matches, so they're scoring all the time. And if you look at when they're scoring in the second half matches, because if you're looking at the Champions League so far, they haven't scored yet in the first half of a Champions League match this season. How will that happen? They even got a penalty, which 𝗛𝗏𝗄 missed in one of the matches. So yeah, I don't know how that's happened. So I'm not just going to go for Atalanta to win. I'm going to go for Atalanta to win the second half, because that's when they score, 263.
All right, both teams to score for 𝐿𝐴, a tight game. Saint-Gilloise under 1.5 goals, draw. Another one, Atalanta, or draw. For this one, smart bet 1x. A lot of surprises for our smart bet. The algorithm likes the double chance for the underdogs, indeed. But I like this Atalanta. Well, this is it, guys, for our Champions League show. Let me remind you, if you haven't found all the games, it's because we have another video coming up in our channel later on today. So be sure and check it out to see the other tips. There are so many games on Wednesday evening.
The B team. Get to see the B team do their predictions. That'd be good.
Yeah, well, Alain and Leo is the other team, actually.
You tell him I said that. You tell him.
And of course, guys, apart from this, check out our website where we have our tipster competitions going on. So be sure you participate and you try to make some money completely for free to participate. And you have plenty of options there. Also, rivals where you can create your own tipster competition. Let's go with our safe bets. By the way, our international ACCA was correct this weekend, so all your safe bets were in. Tom, your ACCA, smart bet, safe bet. First,
which one?
Safe bet.
I hope you do this better later with Alain. Okay, get it together.
He's saving it for the A team.
It's his rehearsal. He's warming up. Safe bet. I think they've got a lot of safe bets, frankly, coming up later. So ours were trickier. I'm going with Liverpool, a minus 1.5 handicap at 1.45 to beat Qarabag at home.
Ronan?
I took my safe bet from the later show because it was such a safe bet. It's Barcelona to win at 121.
Okay, and I don't know, but you chose another game from the other.
Was that allowed? If that was allowed, I would have done a different.
It was not allowed, Ronan.
What?
I should have checked it.
No. Well, he said Bayern. He said Bayern is what he said. That's what he said. Bayern to win.
Yeah, Bayern Munich win is my.
You have to pick your batch of games for the same.
We've lost it at the end. Get it together, guys. What's left? What else I got to do?
It doesn't work this way. Okay, your ACCA, Ronan. I hope it's your batch of games, okay?
He's gone with Barcelona, Arsenal, and Real Madrid.
All of them.
I've gone for Harry Kane to score. That's from today. And Kylian Mbappe to score. That's from the draw.
Oh, no.
It's
Hey,
357. It's an overall Champions League show. I just try to make money for people.
That's it.
Okay.
You're welcome, everyone.
Yeah,
exactly. I forgive
you. Do you want
mine? Yeah, I want to know yours.
I'm going with Burnley to win, West Ham to win. No, it's that's Thursday. I'm going with a 4-game ACCA. Paris Saint-Germain to win against Newcastle, Liverpool win against Qarabag, Tottenham to win against Frankfurt, and Man City to beat Gala. Comes in at 3.73.
Okay, it's a bit short for so many.
I know. Because I was avoiding the other games, Edu.
Yeah, you had
You know?
Mourinho against Arbeloa, for instance. Okay, Tom, Ronan, thanks everyone for watching. And be sure you check also the other video. Let me know which one you prefer, the A team or the B team. Bye-bye.